And just going to preface this with, I think this is the most valuable thing you will watch in this Facebook group. I think this is the most valuable training I can do. I truly believe that if you buy into the concepts that I'm about to share with you, it will change your life because it's changed mine. And anytime I see someone make a long-term, powerful transformation, what I'm going to cover in this video is exactly what happened. So rather than continue to talk in circles, I'm going to just dive into exactly what we talked about. So how to tap into your alter ego and really see, the transformation that I know you guys all want. And let's dive on into this. I'm super excited. If I get a little like amped up and just revved up and ready to roll, it is because I love this topic. I love the mindset. I love personal development. I love the things that we struggle with when we have the light and the dark side in us that we're trying to battle against. And this is everything. This is life. So what is an alter ego? We'll kind of demystify it, give you some examples. Then we'll go step by step how to create your own and really what's happening when you create your own. And, at the very end, if you can buy into the concept that I'll share at the very end, you'll no longer feel like you're a piece of crap because you'll see how powerful your thoughts and beliefs are. So, what is an alter ego? It is the hero inside of you capable of facing and defeating the challenges that your weaker self can't. I use Luke Skywalker because he's the classic example of the hero's journey and because this community is a bunch of Star Wars fans. But what do you have in episode 4? You have Luke wanting to go to the academy, Fit Nerd Academy probably, but his uncle won't let him. And when Obi-Wan invites him to join him, he says, "Oh, I can't. I got to stay." And so many people stay in the moisture farmer version of themselves. They want to make a change, but they're too scared to. The people around them say, "Stay here. You can go there another year." They, have this innate sense and calling to make a change, but unless something forces their hand or they have a mentor like Obi-Wan Kenobi, they don't make that jump. Verse the Jedi Knight, Luke Skywalker, who's able to destroy the Empire and defeat his father and Darth Vader and basically be the hero that we all, watch. And it's the same person, but there's something inside of Luke that he had yet to tap into. And so I love the scene at the very end when Palpatine is like, "Join by my side." And he's like, "No, I am a Jedi Knight like my father." He is reaffirming his identity in the face of the biggest temptation. And you can do that as well, even if that's a box of donuts or, going to the gym when you don't want to. So, do other people have alter egos? Yes. And I think superheroes are the easiest example of this. You have Bruce Wayne and Batman, you have Spider-Man and Peter Parker, but you also have actual real people. And I'll dive into those ones in a second, but just think about this. Like Batman is the one who fights evil. He's the one who saves Gotham. Bruce Wayne, he doesn't. But as soon as he puts the armor on, he becomes Batman. Peter Parker, he can't beat the Green Goblin, but as soon as he puts on his outfit, all of a sudden he saves the world. Same person, but they're tapping into another version of them. And I think another example of this is method acting. You see really good actors. You look at Heath Ledger, who played the Joker and tragically passed. He tapped into that character. And really good actors are able to tap into the characteristic traits of characters. And it becomes real because they believe that it's real. And because they've clearly identified the values, how that person would talk, how that person would think, and they become that. Beyonce, maybe you've heard of her. She went by Sasha Fierce. She may still, because she was so nervous to go on stage that she needed to become someone that is an alter ego of Beyonce. And Beyonce isn't even like, it's like, in a way, like that one word is almost like another identity for her. But artists do this all the time when they have a band name that's different from theirs. I can't think of any right off the top of my head, but there's a number of artists who, like DJs, right? Dead Mouse is an example. Avicii, like those are people who created alter ego stage names so that they could perform and then have that be separate from another identity. Kobe Bryant, may he rest in peace. When he was on the court, he became the Black Mamba. He was no longer Kobe Bryant. So you have athletes, you have performers, you have superheroes. They all use alter egos. You can too. So without just using examples, I want to get into a little bit of the science here. And just like a really quick, simple example is like work mode, dad mode. So many people will be like at work and they're, they're making deals or they're, having these, meetings and being a leader. And then all of a sudden they come home and they're in dad mode and they're like, hey, what's up, buddy? They start talking in, their dog voice for their cats and dogs and the pet voice or whatever. Like you do this already. You just might not realize it. I remember, on Saturdays, I would be out with my friends in high school, and on Sundays, I was at church, and it was yes, sir, no, sir, like two different personalities in a way. But when you get into therapy modalities, DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, is an evidence-based therapy that helps people with personality disorders and interpersonal conflicts. And it speaks a lot to the reasonable versus emotional mind. So reasonable mind is, I'm going to work out. Emotional mind is, I want pizza. When you meld those two together, then you have the wise mind. And this is something that they use for people who have behavioral patterns of self-harm and substance abuse. Is, eating to a point to where you are now 50 pounds heavier than what is healthy self-harm? I could kind of see it that way, right? You're impacting the health of you long term, and definitely in the short term if it gets into a point to where it's high blood pressure or pre-diabetes, substance abuse. Sugar is an addiction. Caffeine is a drug, right? So if you're struggling to give up Coca-Cola, for example, it's not far off. Yeah, it's not heroin, but it can definitely become addicting enough and derail your life in a similar way. So the last thing that I'll say here is that the book that introduced me to this entire concept, The Alter Ego Effect, The Power of Secret Identities to Transform Your Life by Todd Herman, is what I used to create the Trooper transmission. Like none of what you're watching, what you're a part of would exist had I not been depressed in 2021 and about to go on medication. And then I looked back and I put on that helmet right there and said, all right, I don't feel like working today. I don't feel like helping my clients today, but what would Captain Rex do? Oh, he would do X, Y, and Z. He would be a leader. He would work out. And so I literally created the Trooper transmission. I was CT 3939. I still am. And I help now hundreds of thousands of people get fit. And it's crazy when you think about it. Like, I'm just a dude in Seattle, but on the internet, I'm a clone trooper, right? And like, obviously there's healthy elements to this. I know I'm not a clone trooper. People will be, all sorts of weird things, but I'm just tapping into something because there was a time when I didn't have that power. And I think another really cool thing about this, coming back to the superhero idea, is the more you spend time with that superhero, the more that thing starts to blend, right? So eventually, Iron Man no longer has the suit and no longer has Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Tony Stark. He's Tony Stark is Iron Man. It becomes one and the same. And that's essentially where I'm at. And that's where you can get to where it's like, I'm in dad mode, I'm in workout mode, I'm in whatever mode I need to be in. And I'll give you a cool visual of that in a second. So here, what are the steps? One, you got to know what characteristics that you want. And you might say to yourself, oh, well, I'm just not a confident person. BS. You're confident in something. I bet you're a confident driver, or if you've played video games, you're confident at video games. You get confident at the things you do a lot, right? Reps under the bar makes you confident. So you have the trait, you have the emotional capacity for it. We just need to practice it. And having a visual representation of it, which is part two, helps you see, oh, here's how I can model that. A really good example of this is if you have someone in the household who models good behavior, you follow in that footstep. If you grew up in a family where parents were yelling all the time, or maybe there was substance abuse, that model is that behavior is modeled for you. So it's really easy for you to visualize, well, that's what I do, or that's what I should do. So having a visual representation of a person, a character, or just your future self who has those characteristics, that's going to be really important with this. So that you can get to a point and say, what would X do? The most common popular version of this in the 90s was, what would Jesus do? People had the little bracelets on, and you could literally look at that as you were about to steal a Kit Kat bar or punch your friend in the face and be like, what would Jesus do? Huh. Well, if I was going to be more Christ-like, I would not steal this and I would not punch my friend in the face. It's a very binary decision. So now at that point, you just need to make a choice as opposed to not knowing what to do. You know what to do. You have the answers already. It's just tapping into them. So one of the things that'll help with that, and this is why like having a physical bracelet is so valuable, having an activation method or a physical version, right? I put that helmet on. That's when I became CT 3939. Having that activation method now gives you that way to have that anchor. And this gets into NLP, neuro linguistic programming. I got a couple books I can recommend on that. But when you can tap into, you know, any you can tap into any state, any emotional state, any characteristic trait by creating an anchor that you touch, something that you do. And we'll talk about activation methods. And then finally, you create a name, right? CT 3939, Batman, Spider-Man. These are all names that you have a very clear way to distinguish. I'm in this mode and I'm in that mode. All right. So characteristics, there's a lot of them. I just wrote down 5 that came to mind. So what character traits do I need to develop? Like this is something you would ask yourself. So if you're going through and doing this, get a journal out, get a piece of paper out, get on your computer and say, what characteristic traits do I need to develop? Right. If you struggle to eat healthy, you probably need to develop your discipline. If you struggle to wake up in the morning, you probably need to develop your discipline, right? If you struggle to go to the gym, right? To walk into a gym for the first time, you need to work on the confidence, right? You need to work on the courage, right? That's courageous. You're still afraid to walk in, but you do it anyway. That's what courage is. So courage to say no to your coworkers when they offer you a donut. Maybe there's a coworker that you feel like you can't say no to because he's the boss. Well, what if you said no to him and just had boundaries, right? We're going to tap into courage. We're going to tap into confidence, tap into charisma, introduce yourself to someone. We got some single guys in the group, right? Only way you become not single is talking to people, right? It's not just going to land in your lap. So you can be charismatic, you can be energetic, you can be funny, and you might not think that you are, but there's a version inside of you that is. Determination, not giving up when you hit an obstacle. We are all going to fail. We are all going to eat too many calories or miss a workout. Big whoop. Be determined, be relentless. Discipline I've talked about. So now you'd say like, all right, I got my list of traits that I want to develop. Who or what characters currently have these embodied that I can visually see? So I have a good representation of this. That visual representation could be Captain Rex, right? I can see him in the Clone Wars having leadership, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like he's leading from the front. That's what I should do. Maximus from The Gladiator, my favorite movie of all time. The Emperor's daughter tries to get with him, and he's like, nah, I got a wife and family back home. I'm not going to give that up. Right. For me, I'm like, oh, okay. So if I ever find myself in that situation, I can be like, what would Maximus do? He's a really cool character. I really like having that as something to, embody and work towards. I'll do that. Tom Hiddleston. I find the guy incredibly charming. Loki is a dude I would want to hang out with. Tom is a dude I would want to hang out with. So when I'm super anxious or have a lot of social anxiety at a wedding and I don't know anyone, what would Tom Hiddleston do? He would probably smile. He would probably puff his chest out and he would probably tilt his head and say, how are you? Mr. Beast, right? I feel like everyone should know Mr. Beast. If you don't, he's the biggest YouTuber on the world with like 1 billion subscribers. That guy's got discipline. He does not want to always make videos. He might because he's Mr. Beast. But when I want to film something like this, like a YouTube video, right? I've filmed thousands of YouTube videos. You guys have done some of the workouts. I don't always want to, but then I can literally lay on the couch and say, what would Mr. Beast do? Oh, he'd probably go downstairs and film, right? I've got a visual representation of someone who would do it anyway. My father, he's a really patient dude. I cannot get a reaction out of him. I'll talk trash to him during Settlers of Catan. I will tell him I want $1 million. I will tell him that the Huskies stink. Super patient. Just like, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. All right. Right. So I can now, as I, move into that stage of my life, what does patience look like? Oh, my dad's a good representation of that. A really specific example, in 2020, I set the goal to run a sub 3-hour marathon, which is about a 650 pace, 653 pace for 26 miles. There'd be times where I didn't want to run, but then I would ask myself as I laid on the couch, 6 p.m., what would a sub 3 marathoner do? Would they skip their 7-mile run or would they go do it? Man, If I say I am a sub 3 hour marathoner, that is something that is in my identity and my belief about myself. It's really hard for me to go against a belief that I have about myself. So then I would go and run. So big thing here is you got to choose your arena, right? You have fitness, you have your career, you have dating, you have your family, right? There's different arenas that you can be in. So identify the characteristics and the traits you want, identify a visual representation of that. Ask yourself, what would those people do? What would Captain Rex do if he didn't want to work out? Well, he'd do it anyway. He's got to lead the troops. Going to lead from the front. That's why I do every single workout that I have people do on the YouTube channel in a helmet, because if I can do it in a helmet, tired after like 3 in a row, someone else can probably do it without a helmet, fresh. What would Mr. Beast do if he didn't want to write a script? He'd probably write one anyway. I just used example. What would a sub 3 hour marathoner do when he was tired? He'd run anyway, right? Just do it anyway. So choose your activation method. This is one that's going to be unique to everyone. But what I would do is find something that you can put on, find something you can touch, find something you can see. This right here is my 100,000 subscriber plaque. I don't have 100,000 subscribers, but every single time I see it, I tell myself I have 100,000 subscribers. And it gets me into this mindset of, all right, what would someone with 100,000 subscribers do? Right. I've got a bunch of those. I showed you the helmet. I put these helmets on right now. I'm doing a Boba Fett version of the 30-day challenge. And I start talking like Tamara Morrison. I get a Polynesian, I think that's what it is, accent. And I'm Boba Fett and I'm doing this for the bounty. And I'm just having fun. I'm just working out. But when I'm in that plank for 60 seconds or I'm holding 2 kettlebells and I want to put them down, I just say, Boba Fett would not give up. He would get it done. And you know what I do? I get it done. Bracelet, right? What would Jesus do? There's an example there. It could be a Christmas coming up. Get a workout watch. Get a nice, Apple Watch, Garmin, whatever, and just be like, cool. When I put this on, I'm, X, Y, and Z. Picture frame. Talked about that one, right? Could be a picture of your family. Every single time you look at it, like you sit down at your desk at work, you touch that, and it's like, boom, I'm in boss mode, whatever that is. Something to touch. So, naysayers, people that I'll get commenting will be like, oh, that sounds kind of dumb. Why wouldn't I just be me? Right. And they have this idea that self and who they are, and then being this alter ego is them not being them. Right. Couldn't be further from the truth. Being someone that is not authentic, like if you were trying to have characteristic traits that weren't authentic to you, like maybe for me, for example, maybe I say, all right, my alter ego for gambling is going to be, Mr. Gamble. Like that's not something that's authentic to me. So if I was trying to go and be and pretend to be a gambler, like that's not true to me. And people will say, well, it's like fake it till you make it. I would argue that it already exists inside of you if it's something that you feel called to, because it's something that's in your soul and it's something that is truly aligned with you at your core, right? That doesn't sound like something that you're faking. It sounds like something that you're drawing out. So a better way to look at this is that you have 2 versions of you that both exist in yourself, the dark side and the light side. The dark side can be interpreted many different ways, but it is the version of you that wants to give up, the version of you that wants to sit on the couch and just slam Coca-Cola. It's the version of you that wants to stay up till 3 a.m. and play video games when you got to wake up at 6 and work out and go to work. It's the version of you that tells you you're a piece of crap. It's the version of you that says you're worthless and that you're a failure and that you should probably just give up, right? And that's the dark side. That's the not good side, right? And that voice speaks to you all the time. There's a really good book that I recommend called The Art of War. No, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And it talks about resistance, right? The resistance that we all face. Then there is the light side. That is the hero version side of you. That is the version of side of you that can, the version side of you that gets up and goes anyway, right? And so both exist within the self. You're just figuring out, all right, which one am I going to let win? When I talk about the arena, this self, your mind, your soul, this is the battlefield right here every single day. And these 2 things are duking it out. And so you can have a self that is really tapped into one side. You never get rid of the dark side. I think this is something that Star Wars does really well. And I think this is something that, helps people not get complacent. Like the enemy is always coming to destroy. What you have to sweep the floor every single day on your mental health. You never arrive at, fitness. You never arrive in your marriage. Can you imagine if you're just like, all right, I'm married, don't have to ever work in the relationship ever again, which is what a lot of people do. A lot of people get divorced. A lot of people say, all right, I've lost the weight, I don't have to work out again. That's what they do. They gain the weight back. Like this happens in everyone, right? It's the complacency, and it's because the dark side, the side that wants to destroy, is always coming for you. So you constantly have to flex the light side part of that identity. Constantly have to be the hero. One of the things I love about the original trilogy is Luke blows up the Death Star. Guess what? The next movie, the dark side, the Empire strikes back, kicks him in the nuts, chops off his hands. Oh crap, I didn't arrive. The enemy will always bounce back and is always looking for a way to get a leg up. And then what happens in the third movie? Return of the Jedi. It is literally the return of the hero who fell down because of his ego, and now he's coming back around. And then you get to the end of the movie. All is well. Great. Guess what? There's another villain in the next movie, right? You look at a Batman Returns. Any of these superhero movies that you're really into, it's just the hero every single movie having a new villain to fight, because that's what life is. There's always another villain to fight. So you constantly got to be able to you got to be able to flex into this hero version of yourself, right? So you have light side dominant, you have dark side dominant. When I talk to people initially before they decide to join Fit Nerd Academy, this is where they're at. They haven't been making the right choices, struggling with their mental health, struggling with their confidence, struggling with their energy. Why? Because the dark side is winning, right? So that's what we help people do in this program. We help people tap into their light side. And I want to wrap this up with the power of I am statements, because what you believe is true. I don't want to go all Qui-Gon Jinn on you guys, but your focus will determine your reality. If you tell yourself every day, I am a failure, you will start acting as a failure. If you say, I am depressed, you'll ask yourself, what would a depressed person do? They'd probably slam this bag of chips, sit on the couch for 6 hours, and do nothing on a Saturday. And they had stuff to do. I am not a morning person. You're probably going to struggle waking up. I am worthless. You will act unworthy. You will be subservient to your partner, your spouse, your friends. You will literally put them above you, because that's what you believe is true. And your brain will look for opportunities to do that. Whereas if you train your mind to say, I am Captain Rex, right? I'm obviously not Captain Rex, but I'm going to start acting like him. I am the best dad in the world. What would the best dad in the world do? You'd set an example. I am a healthy 180 pounds. If you were 100 pounds from that, guess what you're going to start doing? Acting like someone who is healthy, because that is your core belief. You will always revert back to your core operating system, which is your beliefs and your values. And if you believe that 100% about yourself, you will come back to that. Even if you spend a year being injured, put on a bunch of weight, you're not who you want to be. If you have a core belief about yourself, it's like a thermostat. You will come back to that. On the flip side, you can join this program. You can lose 50 pounds. But if you deep down still believe that you're a worthless POS, you're going to put the weight back on, right? There's scientific reasons, metabolic adaptation, why that happens, but then there's a core belief that needs to shift. And if that does not change, the weight will come back on. This is why people yo-yo diet, because their beliefs and their values do not change. They change their habits, they change their routines for a little bit, but you will never change your core beliefs. There's a quote by Gandhi: your beliefs lead to your thoughts lead to your words lead to your actions lead to your habits lead to your routines lead to your future and your destiny. Where does it start with? Your beliefs. You will never see someone exceed their beliefs for an extended period of time, because it will always pull it back to center. Last thing I'll say here. This is the last slide. So you might be watching this and you're like all motivated, but you're like, man, like kind of in a rough spot. I got a lot of work to do. And I would have you consider that whoever you are acting as today is who you are. And what I mean by that is that your life is a result of previous actions you took 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, 3 years ago. And you might have been a heroin addict or a smoker a year ago. If you stopped smoking a year ago, you will still have smoker lungs. You might still have uh, different chemicals in your brain that is a lagging indicator from what you're doing. But you are not a heroin addict today if you were a year ago. But the result of those actions has you living the life, let's say, of someone who has that. Hopefully this is making sense. Like, stay with me here, because you didn't get to be 150, 200, 250, 300 pounds today. It was the actions you took previously, and that lagging indicator is now here. So I'm 177 pounds. If I have 7 Coca-Colas today and 3 boxes of pizza and don't work out and smoke 30 cigarettes and drink 10 bottles of beer, am I healthy? The result, the visual manifestation of the result might be like, yeah, he's healthy. But my actions aren't saying that. And if my thoughts aren't saying that, then it is just a matter of time until I develop the lagging indicator 1 year from now of someone who is not healthy, right? So if my actions are what determines who I am, not my lagging indicator, then if you are not where you want to be, but your actions are where you want to be, then it is just a matter of time until you are there. So you can literally say, I am healthy, I am fit, I am happy, I am confident, not because the result hasn't gotten there yet, but because you are literally taking the actions of someone who does that. I won't like I want to give like 30 different metaphors and analogies here, but I want to keep it succinct. Um, who you are is what you believe about yourself today, and that will literally create your future. You are not your past, and you have the ability to change who you are today. And your identity, if you look at the root of it, is literally the things that you do over and over and over. So if you believe over and over and over, if you do over and over and over, that creates your identity. It's like a corkscrew going into the center of who you are. And time is not a good representation of who you are. It is a lagging indicator. You could be on fire right now, crushing your workouts, crushing your nutrition, going to bed. But if you stop doing that, 3 months, you might still have some of the results from the last few months, but eventually inertia slows down and you'll find yourself back in a hole. You got to dig yourself back out. You'll start doing all of the actions, and the actions won't give you the result right away, but you'll do enough work and all of a sudden you're back up and you think, oh, I'm good. I've made it. I don't have to do the work anymore. And then you come right back down. The floor needs to be swept every single day. Mental health, physical health, relational health, whatever you're doing for work, you have to show up every single day, because that is literally going to create your future. And where you're at today is just a result and a collection of the things that you've done in the past. Whew, I told you I'd get excited. I hope this has been helpful for you. Drop any comments you have below and like talk to me about this. Do this exercise and be like, hey, here's what I've got. And if some of you come to me and you're like, hey, I've got my alter ego, I am whatever, Yellow Man. I got a yellow shirt on. I'm Yellow Man. Yellow Man does this. Awesome. Like, you're so much further ahead than other people because you're finding a way to tap into the most powerful hero version of yourself. And it's just a matter of time until that becomes who you are at your core. Thanks for watching. That's all I got.